tell by the glow. Didn't cost me one penny. I've been in that sun. I've bathed the life out of my body and I'm happy. I like to say that I'm glowing. I don't know if you can see the shine here.
Good.
But yeah, all good in the hood today. How about you, girl? How you feeling?
I'm good. I've been in the sun as well too, loads. So yeah.
It's been so nice, hasn't it, to sit outside and just be like in the fresh air
and just do nothing. I'm
yeah.
back like properly from tomorrow as well. So.
Oh no.
Oh my god. Oh.
Do you know when you're going back yet, Kai?
No, but I think I'll probably go back on June 15th.
Yeah. Oh really?
Yeah.
That's when all the shops can open, isn't it, from the 15th of June?
I think we need a week to get back into work, to be personally honest. You know, just to get back into the flow. I mean, all them early mornings, I'm not gonna be able to cope. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
No, me either. I've been waking up at like 10 o'clock, and I was just thinking yesterday, like I was stood up for a long time, like doing, stuff in my house, and I was like, I don't think that I could stand for 8 hours at work. I just don't know if I can do it.
Girl, 8 hours. Have you seen the people who were protesting in London? George Floyd. Have you seen them? They are fully in the sun on their feet. I mean, God knows what time they started, but it looks absolutely hectic. Major no from me. No.
That's what I mean. I feel like that's amazing what they're doing, but at the same time, with what's going on at the moment, I don't feel like I'd feel comfortable. Don't know about yous.
It's not. I just don't think, like, at the minute people, especially in the UK, should be protesting because the Black community has the highest rate of being susceptible to having coronavirus. So, and especially because our country has significantly had so many losses from coronavirus, and we have the highest death rates like in the world from the virus. Like, it's not safe for people to go outside and protest like how they are. I get it. I understand people want to do something, but I don't think protesting is the answer, because more people are going to get sick and it's going to cause way more problems for our country here in the UK.
That's the answer, to raising awareness. You think, rather than protesting on the streets, you think it's better to work through social media?
Well, I think there's loads of things that you can do. You know what I mean? Everybody needs to be talking to their local government representatives. People need to be making sure that they're registered to vote. People need to donate to campaigns. Like, it's not just enough to just post on social media. Like, posting on social media, it's just the start of what people can do. Yeah. But it's not the end all be all. Like, just because you post doesn't mean that you've done anything.
Yeah. I think it's more about on social media raising awareness, isn't it?
Yeah. I agree with that. I think now, like you said, Kai, with everything that's going on, and obviously with Black people being more susceptible to it, I 100% do think that it's more beneficial to do on social media. I think a lot of people are in the houses anyway, isolating. There's a lot of people who aren't in work, so haven't got a lot of things to do. There's a lot of people who are turning to social media for a lot of things. So I think even if there was Black or white people, whatever, I think actually social media now is a lot more impactful because of the amount of people who are on it, because of the situations. They're at home, they've not got stuff to do. So I do think the social media thing works, but
but there's other things, like you said, Kai, that you could do.
Yeah, it goes way beyond social media. Even just like white people that want to be allies. Sorry, I'm just going to try to lift my chair a bit. White people that want to be allies to the Black community, to the Black Lives Matter movement, you can simply just reach out to one of your friends who is in that community and say, how are you doing? Are you okay? I stand with you. I support you. Yeah. But the amount of people that I've seen not saying anything or talking about how disgusting it is that people are looting, like those big companies that are being looted, like, they'll survive. You know who won't survive? The Black people that are being murdered by the police.
Yeah.
I think it's obviously, it's with the looting and stuff, like, from a commercial, I know to be on the flip side of it and whatnot, but from the commercial side of it, in the long run, yes, they can take the hit on that, because obviously from a commercial side, they build in stuff for that, for theft and for robbery, they build a percentage into that price, but ultimately long term, that puts the prices of things up. Personally, and I'm not saying that what they're doing is wrong or right, that's it's free will, everyone's got their own choice to do what they want, but I just don't see the benefit in protesting. I don't think it has a what I'm trying to say, it doesn't have an outcome. Is that the right word I'm looking for? I don't think it has. Do you understand what I mean?
So, but when people are protesting and when people are rioting, they're getting the coverage of the news, and that is getting the word out to way more people. So therefore, like, even if, you know, there might not be a significant outcome at first, it's still raising awareness of the actual movement that people are trying to put forward. Like, how long has it been, you know, that people have been murdered by the police? Like, since forever.
Yeah,
since Black
absolutely.
people have been free,
Yeah.
we've been murdered by the police, and that's just it, you know what I mean? And the whole point of protesting is that people are raising awareness, whether it be violent or peaceful or whatever it is, you know, people need to know what's going on.
Yeah. So after, like, you know, any killing in America that's unlawful to a Black person results then in protests in, you know, London, in America, sometimes Liverpool, not as often. You know, the one that sticks in my mind is the Eric Garner killing for selling loose cigarettes outside of the shop. But again, that resulted in a protest. This George Floyds has then resulted in a protest. Like, how many times do you keep protesting to raise awareness, which I agree with from what you've just said, Kai. You know, now I can understand that side of it, but how many times do you have to do that before then it's like, well, what else do you need to do to make a change? You know, raising awareness is great, and, you know, it does, people getting behind it, social media, you know, posting posts and big companies getting behind it, completely agree. But at what point does the awareness then turn into a change? And you know, maybe not stop it altogether, because I think that's, you know, a long way away, but make some form of a difference, because people are still, Black people are still dying unlawfully to predominantly, if not all, white police in America.
I think, you know what, I think Maya Angelou once said that change is slow. And everything that we've seen happen over our lifetimes, over our parents' lifetime, over our grandparents' lifetime, every single thing that's changed in our society has taken such a long time.
Absolutely.
And if you don't keep chipping away at something that's worth chipping away at, it's never going to go away.
Yeah, it's like you've got to keep fighting and fighting for it.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, you know, when the process first started happening, I kind of had the same idea of, like, well, people just do this over and over and over, and there's just no outcome. But really, what we're seeing now is that, you know, the difference from now and 5 years ago is that 5 years ago, there probably weren't big, massive companies coming forward and saying, yes, Black Lives Matter. The fight 5 years ago was all lives matter. And we all know that Black people are dying at the hands of white police, and that is the main problem that we all need to fight against. It's not white people against Black people, it's all of us against racism.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it's all of us against the. So yeah, so I don't know if you've seen the post that John Boyega posted. He done like a video, I think he done it on his story and then staged, so you can go and have a look on his Instagram. But he basically had this rant about obviously everything that's going on at the minute, and he was like, you know, any white people that follow me and are a fan of me, you know, delete yourself, remove yourself out of the equation. And there was this whole big underneath, you know, in the comments, there was a whole discussion about whether he was aiming that at all white people, and he come back and said, I wasn't aiming it at all white people, I was aiming it at the racist white people. But when you watched it the first time, obviously when you kind of understood and got into it, then it was clear that he was just talking about racist white people. Yeah. But I think it's a very fine line of labelling all white people with the same brush in terms of that racism. You know, it's all the white people, you know, are killing us. It's all the white police officers. You know, by the way, I'm not defending this in any way at all, but there's white police officers out there that are probably very pro-Black people, you know, and to tarnish them all with the same brush, I think that's quite a scary. I think that's where social media can be a negative towards that. Well, I don't know what you think on that. What point?
I think anyone who, you know, has something to say should A, already be educated, and B, like, all white people should know that, like, when people say that Black people are dying by white police, we don't mean all white police, obviously, because like the only white police that we're talking about are the white police that kill Black people. Like, we're not saying all white people are bad, all white people need to, you know, whatever, fuck off. Like, it's not, that's not the case. And I think like people should just know that by now. Like, right now, it's a time for people to be educated about what's going on. I've honestly had enough of people saying that they don't understand something, they don't know something. You have a phone. You have a phone, you have a laptop. You can go right to Google and start Googling it, because it's not the responsibility of your Black counterparts, of your Black friends, of your Black coworkers to tell you what you should already know. And if you're on social media, you should know all that stuff anyways. Like, take the time to just educate yourself.
I seen an interesting statement today on my social media. Someone posted and they said, if you're a white person and you agree, or well, you're okay with how the justice system works, then you are a racist, which I found quite interesting. So do you agree with? I think like if you sit there and go, you don't care. I wouldn't say they're all racist, but I'd say maybe you clearly do not care. So if you're sitting there and you're like, no, it's fine. Like, if you're okay with the justice system, then, and you're not willing to post or get involved in this in any kind of way, then you just do not care, do you? So I don't know. It's a quite touchy one, but I wouldn't want to say, yeah, you are a racist. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you need to be supportive of what's going on and understand that other human beings are dying because of what they look like. And like, that's not, you know, it doesn't belong to any sort of political stance. Like,
what Hannah, what do you think about then, like the UK side of things? Obviously, Kai, you've come from the US point of view. What would you think, Hannah, or what's your opinions on it?
Well, the police in the UK, they don't really carry guns, whereas like in the US, all the police do. Is it all of them or most of them?
It is like all police.
Yeah, so it's like, obviously in the UK it's much of a less risk. Obviously there's still police brutality here, but I think it is not as bad, or there is less risk of being killed or shot here because the police don't carry guns as much as they do in the US.
Obviously that reduces the risk massively, but I think they've got a lot to answer for in terms of the amount of Black people in the police force. You know, there's quite a lot of negative stigma towards the police from if you ask a young Black boy, would you go in the police? It'll be no. And, you know, generally the answer, okay, I'm generalising here, don't cause any offence to anybody, but, you know, it's, oh no, if you go to the police, you're a grass, or you're a snitch, or you this, but there's actually more to the police. They do help people in a certain way. You know, it's not just, you know, going around arresting people. There's other things that they can do, you know, there is things. So I think they've got a lot to answer for in terms of getting more Black people in the force, because I think that could help, maybe only slightly, but I think that could definitely help in terms of starting to, you know, take that stigma away of.
But are they doing those things? You know what I mean? Like, the police's job is to serve and protect. But I don't feel like the police ever serve me. I don't feel like the police are there to protect me. Anytime that I've had a run-in with the police, even though I'm a light-skinned woman of color, I've still felt uncomfortable. I've never had a pleasant run-in with the police. Whereas when you'd speak to a white person probably going to say, oh yeah, like, I know a police officer, I'm friends with a police officer, my uncle, my brother, my da-da-da is a police officer. And that's the problem. It's already being separated at that joint. There was that one story from the police today in the news, you know, the police officer, the chief police officer, who was asking the people that were protesting, like, what do they want, you know, from the police. And he felt like he needed to stand with them and to march with them, because that's what we need from the police ultimately. And that's what we need from white people as well. Like, we need them to be allies. Like, anybody who thinks what's happening is wrong, you know, needs to step up and like be there, because like I said before, it's not white against Black, it's not us against the police, it's like, it's everybody against racists. So even if you're a police officer, like, you should still be, you know, there for the people that are protesting. Like, yesterday, a few of my friends actually were at a riot in Albany, New York, and I was watching the live video. And when I was watching the feed, like nobody is armed. Okay, everybody is just out there with just their normal, whatever face masks on, and just there. People just gathering peacefully, and nothing was going on. And here the police are in riot gear, ready to go, batons, tear gas, like the whole nines. And it's like that doesn't promote any sort of peace within the people and the police. Like coming out in just straight up riot gear, ready to go, ready to just mess people up for just gathering.
They need to look at themselves and how they deal with certain situations. There's lots of videos on the internet that you can watch about police targeting black people in the UK as well, and it generally tends to start with the police being patronizing, talking down to somebody. What are you doing here when you sat in a car parked up? I could go and sit and park up on the corner of a street because I'm on my phone and I don't want to drive. Or if I've got a police officer coming up to me, well, what are you doing? Well, it's none of your business really and truly what I'm doing, regardless of the colour of my skin. If you speak to somebody in that type of way, you've got to then expect it back. But just because they've got a badge on their arm and a number, and a belt with not a gun here, but a gun in America, that means that they've then got the right to shoot. That's not right. That it's they've got a lot to answer for in that sense, and it's I think it's that a lot of that's down to education from their part as well. They need to own that as well, I think.
Like I said before, the police are supposed to protect and serve. They're not supposed to act like they're above normal citizens. I understand that you've had to go through all this training or whatever to be in the police. Cool. But at the same time, don't be patronizing me, don't be pushing me to be to a state of anger where then you can say that I was trying to attack you, so therefore you could shoot me dead.
But when it started with them, because that's how they approach the situation. That I agree. It's not right. Regardless of the amount of training, nurses and doctors trained for 6+ years. That doesn't mean that they've got the right to pick whose life they're going to save. They've got a duty to everybody. If someone's
regardless of who they are.
Regardless of who they are. So the police should take the same stance. Firefighters. Anyone in that what they call the emergency services. They've all got a duty. They entered that job and took that job role, undertook all that training, knowing that they've got to protect and serve. I don't know if that's an American thing, isn't it? Protect and serve.
Yeah, I think it is. I don't think it's really a UK thing, but like all police, that's like the job of all police.
Yeah, absolutely. The principle's the same. They have got to protect us in the street. They have got to help us. Same with firefighters and nurses. Now, you'd never see a firefighter pulling up to a house and say, it's a black person's house, I'm not going to put that fire out. Or, someone's lying on a hospital bed and there's I'm not going to operate on him today because he's black.
As you get older, I think like what we start to realize is that a lot of the people that are in the police are people that have been bullied at school, people that think that they deserve some sort of authority over someone else because someone has tried to put that authority over them, and therefore it's made them angry, it's made them not suitable for the job. But it seems like so many more people are going into those fields rather than people going into being a nurse or being a firefighter. And it's just it's hard to know like what to do about that kind of thing.
This has been really controversial, but if it was summer now and we weren't in lockdown and none of this coronavirus ever happened, do you feel like this would be, obviously along with everything else that's in the news, do you feel like this would be such a big story still? Like as big as it is at the moment?
I think it is.
Yeah, I think it would be. I think, there's not a lot going on in the world at the minute because everything is kind of like stopped. But at the same time, like what is happening still, regardless of if there's corona or not, is that the police are still killing Black people. Yeah. Like, so even if even if the world was still continuing on, this would still continue, and that's a big problem. The virus exists or not, the police are still killing people regardless of what is happening in this global pandemic.
I feel like it's been like coronavirus, and now this is like came in, and it's like such a big, massive thing. It just shows how big of a thing it is and how much of a problem it is.
Exactly, because we haven't really seen, you know, or heard of any sort of like big, you know, global issues rather than coronavirus. And this just proves how important the Black Lives Matter movement really is. Because if it can still continue,
as well.
Exactly. And if it can still continue throughout this whole pandemic, think about what it's like normally.
Obviously, it must be.
Although there is no news, this is probably the biggest news that we've had since Corona in terms of something serious that's gone on in the world.
Yeah.
So people now have no choice but to listen to it and find out what's going on, you know.
Like if you're one of them people that sits there and you don't really have much of an understanding of it, now's the time to educate yourself. You've got more time.
In situations like that, so I'm just going to hypothetically use, I'm going to use my granddad as an example because he doesn't have social media. You know, if he was to put the news on now, okay, let's say 3 years ago he was to put the news on and, you know, watch the news about someone getting killed in America, a black man being killed by a white police officer, and that was it. It's the one headline story, and then it'll go off into various different things. Whereas now, it might be 4 or 5 news segments about what's going on. It might be about the protests. It might be about, you said before, about the police officer marching with the things, but probably wouldn't have got a lot. It might not have travelled as far as the UK, should I say, in previous time. But now, like I said, because there's nothing going on, so
now it's like an everyday thing.
So I do think that there is a lot of people that don't use social media. Maybe not a lot, but there is a proportion of people, and I think now is the time where they can really get into it, you know, which is then pushed back onto the news outlets to, you know,
but
to
also
people.
So hard to have to think that you have all this social, you know, pressure or whatever on your shoulders to be that person that knows everything, to be that token black friend that's gonna, you know, give all the information or knows all the information. And it's just hard. But I think at this time, like, we should be able to be having those kind of open discussions with people, as long as people can have that sort of like open-minded sort of take to the conversation, because it is really important for us to be having it right now.
Yeah, definitely. I also think it's like really important for big brands, like whether it's like Nike or Puma, you know, like worldwide brands, to get involved in this as well. Whether it's like on social media or just doing something to show, because I feel like awareness will be spread a lot by them, because because it's a worldwide thing.
The brand that I work for, Morphe, has posted, you know, something about saying Black Lives Matter and we support this movement, blah. So what I think, you know, that's really important that the brand as a whole says something. But what I find really interesting and actually quite annoying is that people that I work with that have a much bigger platform than I do have not said anything, have not even shared this post. And this is the brand that they work for. So what does that really say about the people that work at the brand? Like, so many times I've, you know, commented on how I'm the only person of color that works at my job. And the response that I've gotten is that there's no people of color that apply to work in Liverpool One. To work in Liverpool One as a makeup artist. Are there no black makeup artists in Liverpool? I'm sure there are. Like, I'm sure there's loads of people that would love to work for my brand. But 100%. I think that's part of a systemic problem, is that you know, just because the people that I work with don't outrightly say racist things, it doesn't mean that they support the movement that I'm a part of.
Yeah,
you know,
like,
by
you
birth.
still feel it. You still feel that horrible feeling, because it's like, are they just looking at that and going, "Oh, it's nothing to do with me, move on"? Like, that little repost would support it a lot.
It's like, you work there, so you should be supporting that thing too.
Yeah.
Like,
As
everybody
soon as you
should
see that person's name that they've reposted it or got involved in some kind of way, you're gonna feel like good from it, because you'll think. But then I'm quite like shocked that no one else.
I can count on one of my hands how many people I work with that have
or even
been
like
supportive.
the post or something.
Well, maybe not liking it, but liking it's not enough. Just share it. It only takes 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, it's it's more important for them as well, because everybody at my work is white. Everyone besides me. So it's important for me to feel safe in that environment, that everybody does that.
Talk about as well, you know, the other day when in Liverpool, when they lit up all the iconic buildings purple, I thought that was really nice as well, because it was very supportive towards the movement, and it showed that there are people in Liverpool who are really passionate about it as well.
Yeah.
I think Liverpool's got a lot of history, haven't they, with police brutality against black men from stemming from the riots back in the 80s, if I'm correct, off the top of my head. So yeah, it just goes back to what we were saying. Obviously, change takes a long time, and as far as I'm aware, the first time Liverpool have done anything like this in support of a police brutality. So, you know, these are all changes that are for the good, you know, and helping the cause. Cross,
and something like that as well is what people will always remember, what Liverpool have done. So
yeah,
I think it all makes it.
I like it.
Yeah, I think it is just all about those, you know, those small changes that we're making, you know, just like I said, always chipping away at that big, you know, block of racism and systematic, you know, problems that we have as not only a country, but as, you know, the whole world. So I think like that is really good of Liverpool, especially because there were the riots in the 80s, and like Liverpool is like responsible to say something. I feel like they should feel like they have a responsibility to act.
HUN, we don't have all the answers, but we just want to say to all the black men out there that we love you and we do support you.
We're all here for you.
We love you.
We're sending fun love.
Kind of like a white boyfriend.
No, listen.